Hello everybody, welcome to another video here on my channel on teaching you how to drive. What I'm going to go through today and what this video is based on is a very simple principle of driving a manual car. Now if you're learning in an automatic, this might not be so important to you, but when you're learning in a manual vehicle, this is something that's going to come into play quite a lot. And it's what a lot of students worry about when they first start driving, which is all to do with stalling. So what I'm going to talk to you about is not necessarily how to not stall. I want you to try and understand why you stall and what causes the car to stall. Because if you understand that, hopefully you'll be able to deal with it a little bit better in the future, and you might understand why it's doing it, so that hopefully you stop doing it as much. Potentially it could be something that you do all the time. As experienced drivers, they do it sometimes. It's just that slip of concentration that can make it happen. It's not actually something that I would say to you need to be overly concerned about. It happens to a lot of people. It's all about how you fix it afterwards, which is going to reflect on how you drive. But to understand how an engine stalls, or the reason why it stalls, we need to go into a little bit of detail about how the engine works, how it connects to the wheels and the gearbox and the clutch, and how they all work together. If you understand that, hopefully you'd understand a little bit more about why the car would stall. So the first thing to realistically get is, when you start an engine, you'll hear it all go fire, or it'll what we call tick over a couple of times before it fires. And as it starts to fire up, then that reaction, the explosion or the burn of the petrol in the engine, is what forces your pistons to keep going round, and that's where it's at its happy, what we call tick over stage, which is normally where the engine rests in its happiest place when you've got it in neutral, sat still, not touching any pedals, or you've got it with the clutch down, again not touching any pedals. Where it's at happiest is that tick over point. What you've got between the engine and your wheels is a couple of different points. So first of all, you have your flywheel and your clutch. Now the clutch itself is two abrasive plates that are both circles. One's connected to the engine, one's connected to the gearbox. So what happens with them, when you have it in neutral, there's nothing turning the gearbox, so it doesn't spin anything. When you put the clutch down, what happens is the two plates actually separate. So your one on the engine is spinning, and your one on the gearbox is stationary. So this one's spinning and this one's stationary. So what actually happens when you bring the clutch up and you've got a gear engaged is they start to come together. Now, if you just jump off the clutch, effectively the stopped part of the clutch plate will stop the engine part of it, because it's going on with a massive amount of resistance. So what you need to do is you need to introduce it nice and steady, so that as this one's turning and this one's staying still, it starts to turn with it, and then they can move together. And once they're turning together, that's when you go in, and that's when the engine's happy. If you think about a comparison to something that you might have tried in the past, if you think about riding a push bike or a bicycle, when you start off, if you were stood there with your hands on the handlebars on a flat surface and you just took your feet off the floor and put them on the pedals without trying to pedal, unless you've got exceptionally good balance, you're generally going to fall over. That's effectively what the engine's doing. It's falling over. It's ceasing to turn because you've asked too much of it. So you just need to remember to make sure that that clutch control is nice and smooth. The steeper angle you've got moving off, you might, to help the car, want to introduce a bit of your accelerator pedal, just to give it that little bit of extra help going forwards. Imagine the accelerator pedal is you pushing off on your bicycle. You're pushing off with your foot before you put it onto the pedals. And that's generally how that works. My top tips then for understanding how to control a stall and how to stop it. A lot of this is about feel, and what you feel from the pedals and what you listen to from the engine. The easiest way to start thinking about this is when you're on a driveway in a nice quiet car park, wherever it might be, you put yourself into gear with the clutch pressed all the way down. Otherwise you're going to get a big clunk as you try and spin your gearbox, which is currently stationary, and attach it to a spinning gear of the engine, it's going to crunch. It's not going to work very well. That's what the clutch is there for, is to separate them two, so that there's no crunching of the metal of the gears. You just have this friction material that can grip together and move the gearbox round, move the wheels round. So what you want to think about, standing still, you're in first gear. You want to very, very slowly, and this is millimetre by millimetre, just sit there and bring the clutch up a little bit. Don't touch any of your other pedals and don't take your handbrake off. If you bring your clutch up nice and steady, you'll start to hear the engine change from where it sounds almost like you can't hear it to where it then starts to drop. And when it starts to drop and sound like it's going to a deeper note, so from a to a that difference in note is where you are entering what we call the biting point. And the reason we call it the biting point is because the two plates of the clutch are beginning to bite together. So that's why it's called the biting point. And then as you bring it up, you keep bringing it up. If you leave the handbrake on, you'll hear it will get lower and lower and lower to a point where the car then will just go, nope, I can't do this anymore, and the engine will stop. And that is where you've forced a stall. The trick to not stalling is that point where it starts to hum at you a little bit lower. You just hold the clutch in exactly the same position for a couple of seconds at most. And all you're doing at that point is, when you're at the biting point, it's starting to engage, so there's a little bit of turn going to the wheels now. So all you want to do is get the wheels from your stationary point to half a turn, a full turn. Get those wheels to go all the way around once whilst you hold it on that biting point, and that will help you then to keep bringing the clutch up nice and smoothly, so that you introduce the rest of the power from the engine to those wheels. Keep learning, guys. Make sure you watch the other videos that I've got on here, especially if there's certain things that you are struggling with, like roundabouts or your test nerves, somewhere about there I think it will be. And I hope they're all helpful. Many thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.